listen, never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Getting on baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
There's nobody I'd rather talk to right now than Sam Dykstra because I want to know about a player. I want to know about a player who was in the news, not Rafael Devers. Where were you when Rafael Devers was a prospect, Sam?
I was working for Milb.com. I remember covering him in a futures game, and he was in a particularly loaded outfield or infield group back when it was the U.S. versus the world. So I've seen him rise through the ranks. And
did he turn out to be? Did he turn out to be better, worse, or the same that you thought he would be?
I think the same, which is a little crazy to say about a guy who's like a 2-time Silver Slugger, 3-time All-Star. You don't try to peg those expectations on prospects, but everybody thought the guy was always going to hit. It was just, what was he going to be defensively? And, those are conversations we're having to this day, right?
Sure enough. All right, well, this before we get to Jimmy Tibbs III, which is Sam is obviously MLB Pipeline, the friend of the program, family member of the program, and we know it gives us a what's what when it comes to minor leaguers. In this case, one singular minor leaguer I want to talk about. But before we do that, keep playing this game. Kyle Harrison, is he what? Give me because I think he was like the 19th, 18th, 19th overall prospect a little while ago.
Yeah, we always had good belief in Kyle Harrison that the fastball was going to play pretty well because it was pretty flat. I'm not going to say he had like ace-like potential. You're kind of seeing it come together this year. It's still his age 23 season, which is nuts to say. So there's still plenty of growth ahead of him. I'll be interested to see what Andrew Bailey and that group does. Like, do they take away the four-seamer and just be like, hey, let's work on some other pitches and really focus in on what you're better at? I don't think he's met expectations yet, but it's still early enough in his career, which is a little crazy to say for somebody who's now in his third major league season.
Do you think that, his first time as a starter was full-time as last year?
Yeah, he got 7 starts in 2023 too, but like the first time up in the majors, fully graduated, was last year.
Yeah. So do you feel what has been holding him back compared to what you thought he would be?
He's been somebody who's given up a lot of homers. I think it might just be a command issue. Somebody's putting it over the plate a little too much. Somebody who needs to work a little bit more on the edges because like the walks aren't bad, the strikeouts aren't bad. It's just gives up the gopher ball a good amount. What is it going to be like when he goes to Fenway compared to San Francisco, right? That's a tough adjustment for a pitcher. But like I said, maybe getting away a little bit more from that four-seamer and working more on the secondaries. Maybe that's something that allows him to work on the edges of that zone.
Well, all he'll have to know for now is what it's like to pitch in Worcester. Immediately sent to AAA. So I would imagine they're going to do exactly what you said, though. They're going to strip them down. They're going to say, okay, this is how we want you to pitch and go from there. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. That brings us to Jimmy Tibbs. Jimmy Tibbs III. FSU baseball alum, Florida State baseball alum.
Correct.
Yes. He was a first round pick last year, which is always intriguing. I believe 13th overall. And so when we're talking about this Devers trade, there's the immediacy. It is crazy. The immediacy of the return is like, no, really. It's really the way that Jordan Hicks has been pitching. You can't expect anything from him. Kyle Harrison's already been sent to AAA, and our guy James Tibbs, he's in high A. I think he's being sent to AA. So
that's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah. So give me with a what's what on this guy.
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? Like he's an FSU prospect, like you said. Another FSU guy last year was Cam Smith. Cam Smith opens the year in the majors in right field, which is what James Tibbs has now been playing exclusively all year. But Tibbs has been at high A Eugene all season so far. I get why they're moving him to AA. Since May 1st, I was looking this up before we started. He's been slugging .538, which is pretty good for the Northwest League. He's hit 10 homers in 36 games entering today. I think that was the second most in the Northwest League. So he was definitely somebody ready for the challenge. If you're looking at his batting average, no, it has not been great. But even going back to his FSU days, I talked to him before the draft last year, and he's always had a good approach. He's always honed in on the zone. One of the things he said was most difficult to swallow was taking a strike. If a strike's been there, he as a freshman and as a sophomore, he was always swinging. He's like, that's what the strike zone is there for. I need to swing at strikes. Taking a strike, knowing that there are more drivable pitches coming for two and potentially strike three was a big adjustment for him last year as a junior. Ended up being the ACC player of the year when it was a loaded conference last year. Not quite the SEC, but close certainly. It's power over hit right now. We have it as above average power, average hit. It's going to be more OBP than average again because of that approach. He's not always going to be, he might hit some fly balls that are going to be catchable, and he might hit some grounders that are going to be turning into outs as well. But like when he gets it, it's usually pretty hard contact. The thing for me that I find interesting is that he played a lot of right field in Eugene, exclusively right field to begin this year. He also had left field and first base in his resume going back to college. The Red Sox outfield right now, I mean, we just had this conversation with Roman Anthony, is pretty loaded. Like he's now their number two outfield prospect in the minor leagues behind Joe Stinson Garcia. Do they start giving him some looks at first base? I know
He
Blake
must
Jordan
be.
just
I
moved
mean,
up.
you must.
Yeah,
So, how much did he play there in Florida State?
let me double check the numbers on that.
At
It was a
first?
decent amount, but he's not considered by any means. He's a below average runner. He's not considered a really gifted outfielder. He has the arm for right. He's probably going to be a better fit in left in Fenway just because right field is so much bigger. He played 4 games there in the Cape in 2023, 37 games there in 2023 as a sophomore. So it's abundant. It's not like a handful here and there.
So, when you look at, this is maybe an unfair question because you guys, re-ranking all the time, but you're re-ranking on the fly. If you look at where Tibbs might fall among the Red Sox top prospects, where would you put him?
So we put him right now at number 6. Jim
Okay.
Callis did this. He does both our Giants list and our Red Sox list. So it's
Oh,
actually
perfect. There you
very,
go.
very clued in. Yeah.
You're welcome.
When I found
You're
out
welcome,
about it, I'm
Jim.
like, none of my systems. This is great. I don't have
Yeah.
to update anything. But he put him at number 6. I mean, right now, yeah, there might be some guys like Peyton Tolley who would be ahead of him, but we can't do that quite yet until we do our midseason update in a few weeks. But yeah, like I said, he's the number 2 outfield prospect in the minor leagues for the Red Sox behind Garcia. I think that would remain. We're getting some top 100 consideration for Garcia right now. You could debate him versus Luis Perales, but he's not in that like Arias tier by any means.
Okay. So, overall, from your perspective, obviously, when you look at this Devers trade, it's you have to start with the money, right? If you pay down on the contract, you're going to get better players. They don't, they prioritize having the Giants, pay the money. But for what they got, what is your take? What was your reaction to this? I'm curious because I know that you live in the world of minor leaguers, but like we talked about Harrison, you saw this guy come up. You were familiar with these guys. What was your overall guttural reaction to this?
I was shocked. I was just shocked. It feels like the Sox are going for a quantity here so that they can point to, hey, we got a bunch of guys for this contract. But
I
like you
hate
said,
that. I hate
yeah,
that.
when it's not great pieces and Tibbs can end up being a top 100 guy. Like maybe getting him with that Red Sox hitting group that has developed guys so well with bat speed, with power. Maybe he can make that jump, but he's not there right now. Kyle Harrison, like you said, has been stocked down compared to where he was 2 years ago as a prospect. Um, Jordan Hicks isn't who he is, and the Bayo, the pitcher, is a complex league lottery ticket at best, who probably profiles as a reliever. So they're just pointing to like we got a bunch of guys, but really the big thing is we no longer have Devers' contract.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying in the front office right now.
What if you had to power rank for you? Forget about Bayo, like you said, low level guy. Good for him. Good for him for being part of a trade. But if you have to prioritize, if you have to rank sort of the guys that you felt like was the guy that they're most excited about getting, And I could make a case for all three of these:
Right.
Harrison, Hicks, and Tibbs. And the reason I say this, and people say, well, look at, Hicks is like ERA is horrific. He's been terrible. Harrison's in the minor leagues. I can make a case for all these guys. The Hicks, they love because they tried signing him. They thought they had signed him. And then they went to bed and they didn't sign him. So but yeah, so for you, like what player do you think they're most excited about?
I would be most excited by Harrison, I think, because there's the most to mold there still. You got somebody who has major league experience, who has seen that show, but like took enough dings where he's willing to come to a new team and be like, do what you need to do to get me better, to make me better, to make me somebody who's going to stick in a rotation instead of make some spot starts here and there. And I think he still has a better upside than Tibbs does. Tibbs might end up being the better player. I mean, normally I would say take the guy who has everyday potential, and he has that. But it's corner outfield slash first base like that. If he's going to end up being a first baseman, which very well might happen, he's going to need to hit. He's going to need to reproduce these numbers that he's doing in the minor leagues, not only at the upper levels, but at the major leagues someday. And that's still a big question mark. I mean, that's the reason why we don't have him in the top 100. It's like, how is this power going to play the higher he goes, and what happens when, like he's facing better curveballs and better changeups, because that's where he's been having the swing and miss issues to this point. So I think Harrison's kind of in that sweet spot where he's seen the majors, he knows what he needs to work on. He's going to come to the Red Sox with notes. They're going to have notes for him, and he ends up being a starter. Hicks isn't going to be a starter, so that knocks him down a peg for me.
So, you look at Tibbs, and I want my answer to be Tibbs. Like I want it because I kind of like.
Sure. Yeah.
Like Harrison is what is what he's always got the taste. Hicks. I actually we did a podcast with Jordan Hicks. I really enjoyed talking with him. And I hope he does well. But it's just been so striking how much he struggled this year. But I want Tibbs is like represents the what might be, which is what fans want. It's not going to take away from the frustration of the fans, from the Red Sox fans, because he's still a AA. But what's interesting to me is that Tibbs was drafted 13th overall, right? Correct?
Correct.
His teammate was drafted one pick later, Cam Smith.
Yeah,
His teammate is in the major leagues, and Tibbs is in AA.
Right.
Explain this to me.
I mean, it's fascinating, right? Like, and it's funny that both of those guys have been involved in trades.
Yeah.
Cam Smith went from the Cubs to the Astros because he got off to an incredible start last year with the Cubs, and was looking more athletic, and it was clearly showing that the bat was going to play in pro ball. Tibbs, it's taken a little bit longer for that to happen. I think Cam Smith is a more athletic player. That's why the Astros felt comfortable moving him from third base to right field. Tibbs, we're talking about regressing defensively, right? He's going to have to move to first base because he can't cover a ton of ground on the grass, especially in Fenway Park. So I think that's kind of acting against him. Smith had so many things like below the hood that, yeah, if you're the Giants had their pick of Florida State guys, and they went with Tibbs because I think the on base and the slug was good enough, and they were like, oh, we'll see how this goes, just the bat. But Cam Smith was better overall package, and now the Astros are
that makes
reaping the benefits.
That makes sense. All right, well, I'm not going to keep you any longer because you've already educated me more than I was educated like 10 minutes ago. So I appreciate you. This is a very emergency podcast. But in case of emergency, break glass and get the excellence of Sam Dykstra. Fact.
I mean, if we're talking about this on June 15th, there's still a month and a half.
It's crazy, right?
What are we going to do? Yeah.
It's been Sam, I just did 2 hours talking about this, and it's funny because people want to they want to basically get angry one way or the other. It is such a complicated thing. Like this Devers thing is such a complicated thing.
Right.
It's including, by the way, what they're getting back. But I do think this is that when we compare this trade to say, you're trading a superstar for X player for these group of players, this one there's no room for interpretation. This isn't trading Nomar Garcia-Pera for two players that are going to help you win a World Series. Harrison and Hicks might help at some point, maybe, but
Right.
the motivation isn't like, oh, we get some guys who are gonna help us win, which is on, as he said, the middle of June for one of the best hitters in baseball is crazy.
And it's not like it's happening in the offseason where you'd be like, well, we just saved a bunch of money by shipping him out. Let's go spend that money right now and go get whoever. That's a conversation that's going to happen in the offseason. It's fascinating.
I feel, Sam, this is what it is. If we want to break it down in a simplistic form as much as possible, the Red Sox, their relationship with Devers had gone out the window. Fine. It wasn't like we're shopping Devers around for the best package. My sense is like they shopped Devers around to the best ownership group that was willing to pay the money.
Yeah.
And then
and a GM now in Buster Posey who's just like, hey,
right.
I'm here to win. I'm not here to play games for
right.
a while.
But he has to have the ownership group sign off on this.
Totally.
And once 100%. You do, they're like, okay, we got the team that's willing to pay the money. How can we pick through this to get some players that we want? And yeah, so I don't know, man. It's crazy, but I appreciate it. I appreciate you punctuated a crazy day in fine fashion. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me, Rob.